Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today we are going to be redoing the train yard, in specific the switch tracks right over there, because when the Orient Express runs around the track with both of its passenger coaches, it has a little bit of trouble because, as you guys can see, the train track is on the outside and then it switches in and then it goes around this curve here. So that S curve right there from the switch, and then the tight R40 curves that the official Lego track is just a little bit too much to handle for it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to move that curve out to the edge of the table and then have the track go along the edge, and then we can have the switch tracks right in the middle here, and then the sidings will go from there. So without me talking too much, let's just get started. All right, so this is what it looks like before. Like I said, this is the line on the outside, which is what the train would normally go on, and then that's the S curve that I was just talking about, and then this is the portion right there, which the curve here, which I'm going to move out to here, and then this switch track will come here, and then straight tracks will just be here, and then this will just be one straight loop right around, and then that switch track will be here, like I said, and then it'll branch off into these two sidings here. I don't know how exactly that's going to go, but we're going to try it here today, and hopefully this works really good, and there will be trains running at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that, and then hopefully this works better than how it does now. But there's been plenty of videos on the channel already showing the Orient Express going through this with both of its coaches, so I'm not going to have it running right now, but that is something to consider if you want to take a look at it before, because going through that S curve and then 3 track segments later, it goes through that tight turn there. It's not ideal, and so I want to fix that today. So let me start ripping this up and we can fix it. All right, so I'm starting off by moving the curve over, and pretty much all I'm doing here is just swapping the base plate so I don't have to redo all of the tiling, but that's a really easy way to do it. And then I just put a 16 segment of straight track in, and then I start working on the first switch here. And I also have my iPad down here just so I can reference the instructions for the ballasting. And if you guys are interested in the ballasting that I am basing mine off of, you can check the link in the description to the L-Gauge website. That is what I use personally, and I know a lot of other people use that as well. I think it looks really good, and personally I use black rail ties to just tie it all together. I personally really like that, but that's personal preference. And so now that this first switch is done here, let's check it out in real time and see how it's looking. All right, so this is the first switch done here, and I think this is looking pretty good so far. Obviously, I have to remove all of those tiles there, but I did remove most of this section here just to have enough room. But the switch is up against the edge of the table now here, and even if I wanted to put a second left switch in just like this here, this is really rough, but so even if I wanted to have a left switch here and then a curve and then a second left switch for this other siding here, I don't have a second left switch to do that. So unfortunately, well, for better or for worse, I haven't really figured that out yet, but I'm going to have to put the switch like this, right about there, and then a curve track will go here, and then the straight track will go here. Now, I understand that this is not in grid with the rest of the train track here. However, I can just tile underneath the ballast, and then I could easily remove the train track whenever I need to. I think this is the right way to go, and I also think this looks a little bit more realistic. So I don't hate this, actually. I think this is going to look pretty good, I think. And this also leaves more space over here for the potential buildings that are going to go over here as well. So I think this is a win all around. And the only thing that I'm not super sure on is how to ballast under the switch track on an angle here. I have to figure that out, but I think this could look pretty good, and hopefully this works out. Because if not, I don't know what I'm going to do. So we're going to just take it one step at a time here, but I'm going to move some of this train track over so then the outer loop is done, and then we can focus on the switch track, and then we can go from there. All right, so the outer loop is now done here. I got all the straight track in. I just swapped it with that section there. I figured that was probably easier. And then, so now what I'm going to have to do is rip up the all the stuff in the middle here, and then try and figure out how to place the switch track down and then tile underneath it, and then try and get all these details in there as well. And then I'm going to have to go ahead and finish ballasting the track here, and then I'm going to have to remove all of this as well. But I think this was the right choice in the end because I want the Orient Express to smoothly run around the layout here, and this is the best way to fix that problem. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to continue working on this, and hopefully the area here looks pretty good. The tracks won't be at the same distance apart as this, so the overhead lines are going to have to be removed temporarily, and I'm going to have to figure out how I want to space everything out. But that is a problem for a later date. At the moment, I am just trying to get all this stuff done here. So without me talking too much, let me rip all this stuff out and we can keep going. All right, so I've been pretty busy here. I actually ended up moving all of this stuff from over there to the front of the table here just because I wanted to sit down and really get a close-up look at all of what I'm doing here. And so I went ahead and I pretty much put most of the tiles in under the switch track and the curve here. This straight track and that straight track are not properly ballasted and connected yet, but that's fine because I'm just doing a little bit of testing right now because the whole thing as a whole is really under tension. And so to fix that, this track is actually half disconnected here. You can see this one half of the switch is connected to it, and then the other half here is not really connected to it. But that allows it to stay in line with studs here. And if I take this right here, you can see that there is no issue with trains going over this, and so that works out pretty good. And also this as well is not a point of concern because 8 studs comes out to here, and then I have a little bit of extra gap for this. So that's not a problem, and that will not hit the trains as they go by, and worst case, I can just keep it like that. So that's not the end of the world, and this, I know it's not technically legal, but I don't care. To be honest with you, I'm going to just leave it as it is. I think it's fine. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And so as you guys can see, this works pretty good. And then if I bring this over here, also works. And then the front here is just standard switch track, and then put a little bit of sand green in there just to give it a little bit of color. And then throughout here, I don't want to leave the base plate exposed. I want to add a bunch of plate in there. I have a bunch of dark orange 2x6 plate, so I might end up putting that in here, but I don't know how that's going to look. So maybe I'll do olive green and a couple other colors because I think that could look pretty good. But I've been pretty busy, and so I'm going to try and get some more of this done. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish the entire train yard today because I don't have a lot of 1x plate, and my plan was to put 1x plate on the edge here and then just tile underneath all of this stuff here so that I can easily remove it if I need to, because this section of track is not on one base plate, it's on 2 different ones right here. And then same with this one here, it is 2 studs short of being at the edge of the base plate there. So I'm gonna tile under it so that I can just leave it separate and then separate them as needed instead of putting everything on base plates. And then if I ever need to rip everything up, it'd be a lot easier to do that as opposed to plating everything down. So that's my plan, but I don't have a lot of 1x plate to go on the outside here to continue the ballast look. But I'm going to just focus on this section right here and we can take it from there. And so actually, before I show you guys the method that I'm using to ballast the track here, this is where the outside of the train ballast was before, in that middle line here. So it was the outside line, this right here, and then the middle ballast, and then the outside ballast came all the way out to here. So we're gaining all of this space here, and so now I can actually have a transition between the train yard and the buildings that are going to be here. So that leaves me a lot more space, which is really, really good to see. But for the train track here, for the straight segments, pretty much all I'm doing is just laying 4x plate underneath the track here, and then I am just taking the 2x4 plates with the 1x4 tiles on top and then sticking them in like that, and that's pretty good. And then I would just put tiles underneath where the seams are, and then I just put the tiles on the base plate, and then I would just clip this in. And that is pretty much it. That is pretty simple, and then the 1x plate will go on the outside to keep everything separate. But that is pretty much it. So let me continue with this and also do that segment right there, and then I can show you how it looks. All right, so basically to just put the things that I had just said into actual physical things here, the track has the 4x plate underneath and then the 2x4 plate and the tiles on top. And then I'm going through and then I'm just kind of lining this up and seeing where the seams are on each of the 4x plate and putting a 2x2 tile in the middle. And then I'm going along and adding tiles along the edges for the ballast itself. And then just clip that in. And then that is pretty much it. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. Yeah. So that is what it's going to end up looking like, actually. And you can't even tell that it is not connected, which is my goal. So that is looking pretty good. I quite like that. And I've already started doing that for this one here. And so that is pretty much it. So we're going to continue working on this, and I will show you once this is done. And then we can place this over back into the city, and we can hopefully get some more of this done. And then whenever I run out of time, we can have the train go around and see if everything works. All right, so I have the 2 base plates that I was working on back in the city, and so now I want to go in and remove this section and this section of track here, and then I can connect them both up, and then we can connect the outside loop here, and then have the train go around, and then we can test all the switches and see if that works. I think it's going to work. The section in here does worry me slightly, but I don't think that that is going to be a problem, so I think it'll be okay. It doesn't look the greatest, but honestly, from any kind of distance, you can't tell. So I'm not worried about it. And I actually think that having the switch on an angle here looks more realistic than having a switch and then a curve and then having the switch start here and then splitting off from there. So I think that's probably the way to go. I did remove the overhead crane as well. And I'm really happy that I held off on getting tiles and tiling this whole thing, because that would have sucked to have to redo all of that. But I have to go in and I have to remove all of the little details in here, and I already started doing that with the pallets and the random brown plates that I had. So let me go ahead and rip some of this stuff up here, and then I will hopefully get this connected. I am out of 1x plate already. I didn't even get to finish this section here, so it's going to be kind of floating for the time being, but I should have enough tiles to do that, so that's not a problem. And the cheese slope is in here because, like I said, this is under a little bit of tension in here, and the whole thing wants to curve this way slightly. So I put the cheese slope to help straighten everything out, because without the cheese slope, the whole thing wants to sit like that. So that is not ideal. And so when I put the cheese slope in, it just straightens everything out. So that's good. And so I'm going to go in and do this now, and I will hopefully get everything connected up, because as it is right now, this doesn't look very good. All right, so I went ahead and I fixed up this base plate here. I left this track segment off because otherwise they would have been overlapping with the next one, and then I don't really have the time to go through all of this today, and then also potentially this as well. So I figured I'd save this and cleaning up the rest of the train yard here for its own video. But for those of you curious as to how this works, like I said, it's just the 1x dark gray plate on either side, and then the 1x tile on the edge is for the 2x dark gray plate, just to support that. And then the 2x2 tiles are for the 4x plate underneath, holding up the 2x4 plates in here with the rail ties. And the cheese slopes help keep everything in line, because like you see, the track does not want to stay straight. So I just keep the cheese slopes on either end just to help lock it in a little bit better. And that is pretty much it. The same thing goes for the other side, but I ran out of 1x plate, so this is just going to be floating for the time being. I don't think this side needs cheese slopes, to be honest with you. I think it's okay. But I have the train connected to the app here, and so now we can do a test here. I actually want to flick this to see if the train hits that. So I am going to run the train now. The train is currently right there. So we are going to get started. All right, I'm going to do this pretty slow, but the train is coming around here. No problem. And obviously this should not have any problems here. I didn't fill that gap yet where the empty train track is, but that works, no problem. And then we can put the train in reverse here. And I want to see if it will make it over. Yep, so this is perfect. That works out great. And then I'm going to bring the train forward, and then we can back it into the other siding here. Okay, and then we can come in, we can switch that, and we can run it backwards once more. All right, so since this worked so good, I want to try this again. I want to have the train go out onto the main loop, and then we can put it back into the siding one more time. This worked really, really well, and I'm really happy with it, so I wanted to give you guys a different angle here. So here the train is leaving the siding, and then we can put it in reverse and have it go back onto the main line here. Okay, and then we can bring it forward one more time just to show that it works going over the switch track. And then we can swap that, and then we can have it go back into the siding here. Okay, and then that works, and then we can bring it forward one more time. And then once it passes that inner switch, we can swap the track here, and then we can reverse it one more time. And there we go. All right, so I'm really happy with that. I hopefully gave you guys two good angles on the train moving here. I'm really happy with this. This looks great, and I do think that it does look more realistic having the one siding or the one main line and then the kind of branching off like that and having the switch at an angle. I think that works a lot better. And like I said, unfortunately, I don't have enough 1x plate to finish this, but I'm really happy with this. I can't have the train run around the full loop at the moment because I have the other trains just parked on the main line here. But overall, I'm extremely happy with this, and I think this looks great. If you guys do too, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads. If you guys have any feedback for me on the sidings here and also anything that you want to see me put in this area, make sure to drop a comment down below. I have a couple tentative ideas, but I would love to hear what you guys think. And once again, seriously, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this even half as much as I do because I really, really love this. And once again, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.